This is the Orange Zone, supported by Northside Collision.
Visualize this. You're in the Carrier Dome. The house is filled. The feeling is electric. The noise is deafening. You have a defense that is relentless. You have a special teams that has been well coached. You have an offense that will not huddle. And you have a game that's faster than you've ever seen on turf. Open your eyes. That's going to be a reality. That's going to be Syracuse football.
It's a new era for Syracuse football. Good evening, I'm Nico Tamuri, and welcome to the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff 2016. Over the next hour, we'll preview everything Orange football. Joining me, as always, 4 seasons in a row now, former Orange running back, former star, 10th on the all-time rushing list, Damian Rhodes. Thanks so much for being with us once again.
Hey, it's football season. You know, we got a game coming up on Friday night. It's felt like such a long off season, but so much excitement being built into this year with the arrival of Babers and everything that's going to go on the hill. Can't wait for this season. Absolutely.
I think that's just it. There's so much excitement. I think that's why it feels like it's been so long. But you mentioned it. Dino Babers, the new man in charge. He brings so much to the table. What are your thoughts?
I'm excited. You know, the thing that strikes me the most is he has this kind of quiet confidence. You know, doesn't do a whole lot of talking, few words, but they mean so much. And his demeanor and the way he carries himself. You know, as a player, I would love to play for him. He just has this kind of quiet swagger about him that I think is going to really start to, you know, resonate through the team. They're really going to pick up on that. And I think the community is too. I mean, I know I'm excited. I bought 8 season tickets this year.
Wow.
For friends and family because I think that this is really going to be something special. And I think the players in the community are really starting to feel it. I see a lot of buzz about it. You know, a lot of people are excited to get up to the Dome and see what's going on this year, and rightfully so. I think it's going to be a great year.
No doubt about it. And really, even from the top of SU Athletics, we have a new look department on the SU Hill. John Wildak takes over as athletic director. My one-on-one with John coming up in just a few minutes. The Dino Babers era underway. And Damian, you know, we mentioned the general excitement, but it's an entirely new approach on offense with Babers as well.
It is, and he spoke about, you know, it's really that second year between games, you know, 4 and 8 or 6 and 8, where he sees the difference, and that's shown because in 2014, when he was at Bowling Green, they averaged 30 points a game, 430 yards of total offense a game. In 2015, they averaged 42 points a game, over 500 yards of total offense a game. So I think he's right in terms of that second season. And when you watch, you know, what he did at Bowling Green and even Eastern Illinois, he won the conference championship with all 4 years he was at both schools, respectively, 2 in each year. Won bowl games. He gets players that fit his system and that are athletes. And when you look at some of the Bowling Green receivers, they look just as good as any other receiver you'll find at any school. So I think with his approach offensively, and you know some of the talent we have when you look at the Dungies, the Ishmaels, the Steams, the Irv Phillips, we have some scary good offensive skill players, and if he can get those players in the right position, I'm looking forward to seeing what this offense can do, not in year 2, but right away in year 1.
Exciting, absolutely, and it all starts with Colgate on Friday. Now, we brought you the very first one-on-one interview with Coach Babers. I was able to bring that to you Super Bowl Sunday, but now we're going one-on-one with the leader of the Orange once again. I sat down with Coach Babers as he hones in on his first season leading Orange football.
One of the moves that always grabbed me was Apollo 13. You know, when the carbon monoxide was going up and all they had was this box of stuff, and they came in and they threw that box on the table and they said, "What is that stuff?" They said, "Well, that's what they've got up there, and we've got to figure out a way to get that carbon monoxide down." Well, I take great pride in coming into a football team and looking at the stuff and finding out a way to make it successful.
My favorite line from when you had your press conference when you were hired was the Apollo 13 line, where they had all this stuff and they had to make the pieces work. Because how are the pieces fitting into your system?
Now I think on that table we know which one's the square, which one's the triangle, which one's the spear. Now we're about to put it together, and this week there's certain things that we need to see out of certain individuals to make sure that they're the pieces, and then we're going to go play some football games, and we're going to play them with fantastic effort. And hopefully we'll find a way to win a few. But I think the guys have been outstanding. The camp has really been a nice, clean camp. We had one major injury with George. But outside of that, so far so good. So let's see where we go from here.
What's that bond been like in the last 8-9 months between the players and the coaches that have really made you the family, La Familia, as you all call it?
Well, I'll tell you what, we really try to do things in a very clear manner, black and white, right and wrong, good or bad. We know there's so much gray out in the world, and you can't avoid it, the politics of the real life, of reality, not TV, but reality life. But we try not to communicate in those manners, and we try to stay away from them. Even though there's some on our team, we try not to live in that realm. And I think when you're very clear with young people and you tell them the truth, that they may not love what you're saying to them, but they do respect what you're saying. And when I say we treat it like a family, a La Familia, and an Ohana, that's what we do inside your families. I mean, you won't say something to hurt a family member, but for the most part, you're going to tell them the truth.
I'm sure it never gets old, but just the feeling September 2nd when you're in that tunnel with your men and you're about to take that field. So many of us, we don't know what that was like. What is it like when you're in that tunnel and you're about to take that field, especially for the first game of the season? What's that all like?
This is my 31st season, if I'm not mistaken. But right now, I don't have emotion about that. I have emotion about the practice that's going to happen at 11 o'clock. I have emotion about who's going to be the third wide receiver, who's going to be the nickel defensive back, who's going to be the pass rusher off the edge in third down situation, who's our run stoppers, who are the guys that are going to have to be in the game for us to punch it in 4th and 1, because I know those are the components that I have to get right for us to have success at the end of the day on September 2nd. So I'm still in kind of the process mode of how things go. I really feel that game day is for the players. It's not for the coaches. It's not for us to be out in front of cameras. And it's for the players. And on game day, I purposely try to take myself out of it and push them to the front and let them lead. And my job is done in the days before that game. My job's done the days after that game. And on game day, it's time to let them be the star and let them be the face of the program. And I've always had that attitude about it.
Why Syracuse? Why not Syracuse? Why not? Tell me. You tell me why not.
That's just it, Damian. Why not Syracuse? And Coach Baber is making the case that he's really bought in, and we heard him say how this program has really become family over the last 8 or 9 months with him in charge now.
And that's important. You need everybody to buy in, and his approach and the way he came in, and I didn't watch tape.
Right.
I'm starting from what I see, not what the public thought players could do or who started last year and that. They're making their own decisions based on what they see. And what that does is gives those players that maybe didn't get the opportunity to do what they had to do when they first came in a chance to start fresh. And it also gives kids that maybe felt entitled to have to come out and prove themselves. So it really shows everyone has a fresh start, and that can be really good for some players, and for others it could be a bad thing, as you see in some of the shakeups that are in some of the depth charts already from people that once stood at a certain position, now coming back a little bit as everybody else has a chance to play.
One guy who stayed in his place in the depth chart that we talked about a lot on the show last year is Eric Dungy, the quarterback. What do you look from him this season?
I'm excited. I mean, what Coach Babers did with the quarterback last year at Bowling Green, Matt Johnson, threw for almost 5,000 yards.
Wow.
I think it was 46 touchdowns, only had 8 interceptions, and their running back almost had 1,300 yards rushing as well. So you have an offense that puts up crazy numbers, but with a guy like Dungy, with his ability to move, his ability to stay calm, the way the team kind of rallies about him, I think his arm is stronger than what I've seen in Matt Johnson. And Matt Johnson made some throws that were some pretty tight windows last year, and they put the ball vertical. They'll stretch out. They'll do a lot of plays that are based off the read option. It may look like a run, but the quarterback has a key on that corner or that safety. If he bites too hard, that's going in from a slant to a deep post. And I look forward to seeing what a guy like Dungy, with his explosiveness, his demeanor, hopefully he stays healthy this year, no more bang-ups, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in this offense.
And in an effort to try and absorb more of that contact, Dungy adding 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason. It is time now for our player feature here on the Orange Zone, welcoming Matt Hosworth to the team. He sits down with the Orange Gunslinger.
What's the biggest difference between Eric Dungy 2015 as opposed to Eric Dungy 2016?
Just trying to be more mature, smarter with my body, make smarter reads, and just more confidence.
And in terms of what you're saying, smarter with your body, obviously we saw you take some mega hits last year. Did you look back at that video? Can you stand watching some of those hits at times? I
believe the first hit against Central Michigan, that was kind of a freak hit. Nothing really I could do to protect myself when I'm getting dragged down and I take a hit like that. But other than that, I've seen it. I've seen other ones. Just you got to be smarter with my body, like I said. It's not high school anymore. The guys are a lot bigger out here, so got to be smart.
Is that something that Coach Babers has kind of harped on a little bit? Is
definitely.
Saying, hey, you can scramble, but definitely try to keep it within the realm of.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm holding the ball too long or not sliding, he's definitely gonna get on me. So.
First things first, I want to ask you about your hometown. Obviously, a lot of people at this point. Last year did not know who you are, but now they definitely do know who you are because of how well you did play last year. Lake Oswego, Oregon, and there isn't a Oswego nearby to here. Have you ever been there? And tell us a little bit about your hometown.
I've never been to Oswego up here. I've drove by it, but hometown, it's great. I love it. No place like home. It's always relaxing. It rains a little. Actually, it rains a lot, but it seems like a little to me. And then the summers are they're indescribable. I'm up here during the summer though, but anytime I get a chance to go back there, it's awesome.
Now there's a famous athlete that's actually from your hometown, which I'm sure you already know about. But Kevin Love, I guess, tell me, he obviously put that town on the map. And how much do you actually know about the history of what he did, in high school?
I used to watch Kevin in high school when I was a little kid. It was always crazy, you're kind of starstruck at the time. He'd be out in our gym just dunking on our team. I kind of went to watch him. It was fun to watch him. And then he actually played with Klay Thompson on the Little League team. And then Klay went away. But it's crazy, I always knew Kevin was going to be something special. Just he got everyone excited. The gyms would be packed just to watch him play.
What age were you at when that was going on?
I was young, probably 8 or 9. So.
Okay, we'll shift back to football here. Obviously, offensive changes are plentiful this year, especially with the new regime. Tell me what's been the biggest obstacle so far with learning this offense. Has there been a lot of challenges?
Just trying to learn the offense at first, it was tough. The first couple practices were rough just because it was new to everybody, and the pace that the coaches want to go was so fast, and it is so fast that people were having a hard time adjusting to it. But now that we've had so many practices under our belt, it's getting better and better every day. So I'm excited, throughout the season and next year and the year after.
Change is nothing new to you, obviously. This is the 5th offensive system you'll be learning in 5 years. I guess tell me about that and how difficult that has been, or maybe how easy it's been.
Honestly, I think it's easy just because it's been a new offense every year, so I've never had a chance to really get used to 2 years under an offense. So it's just kind of learning it to the best of your ability, and then once you learn it, just really focusing more on everything, and then just kind of forget the year before, and then just focus on the year that you have.
And that dates back to, what, sophomore year of high school?
Yeah, from basically freshman year of high school.
Tell me about the relationship you have with Coach Babers. It seems like he's a player's coach, a guy who, will go to battle for his guys every single weekend. What is he like dealing with the players on a daily basis?
He's great. I have the utmost respect for Coach Babers. That's all you can have for him is respect. He demands it, and he gets it. He's had, it's awesome, being able to be coached by a guy like that. He's going to make you better on and off the field, so I think that's really important. He tries to make us better people, and it's just great. And like I said, the utmost respect for him. Realistic
expectations for you and this team. I guess we'll start for you. Is it just to have the best season you could possibly have? Is it to stay upright? Is it to remain healthy? Do you feel as though if you remain healthy that this team could be bowl eligible at some point? I never think about staying healthy. That's not a thing to think about. If you think about that, then something's bad is going to happen. So you just got to go out and give it 100%. Coach says if you're not playing full speed and you're playing scared, then something bad is going to happen. So I'm just really focused on winning and getting the most wins that we can. That's the only thing important to me. How does this team define success? It's winning. So I got to go out and win. Yeah, it was cool talking to him. Obviously, a lot of people are wondering what's his health like at this point. After getting hit quite a bit last year, he says, hey, he feels 150% right now. He's completely healthy. He says Coach Babers installed a few things, getting rid of the ball quicker, not as much scrambling as he had to do last year because we saw what happened.
Damian, year 1 to year 2. How much of a difference does that make, especially from the mental standpoint?
It makes a lot. I mean, you've been there, and I think as much as you don't want to miss game time, but that time last year when he was out and able to kind of observe, sometimes that's some of the best learning you have. So you play early. He came in that first game
Second
of the year.
series of the season.
Not
really.
supposed to be in yet,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden he's in, he does great things, then he gets knocked out. So you've got to play, you've got to get your feet wet, but then you get to step back and take a view of how it's supposed to look. You get to kind of see, so now I see it when he's watching Zach play against LSU and Clemson and kind of getting that feel. And so those mental reps from the sideline after being able to take a step back, after being thrust in, is going to help him a lot. Plus, his ability to get stronger this year. So if he does take a shot, he has more substance to take it. Whereas last year, he's a freshman. He was not supposed to be in the second series of the game of the season. So I'm looking forward to really seeing his development because I think he already has natural-born leadership, but just his progression as a quarterback, I'm looking forward to seeing.
5 offensive systems he's had to learn in the last 5 years. He said it was easy. It's been easy to learn 5 different systems.
There you go.
So I think this is going to be by far the easiest one because Coach Babers, he said he can't remember the last time he's huddled. So it's going to be quick, and hopefully they can score just as much.
Coach Babers promised that, and Damian and the newest member of our team as well, Danny Conley, we'll talk about that in just a minute. So don't go anywhere. Danny's with us, Damian's with us. We're going to watch video of Bowling Green's offense last year. How did they do it? Hear those numbers Damian mentioned. We're going to go inside the video in the Toyota Coaches Corner when we come back. You're watching the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff right here on NBC.
Welcome back to the Orange Zone, supported by Northside Collision.
Welcome back, and to the audience, welcome back to the biggest member of our team, former Syracuse linebacker Danny Conley. I mean that lovingly in the most complimentary way possible.
Very nice way of saying you
best
put
linebacker
weight on this summer.
Not at all. Best linebacker in Syracuse history right here. As usual, guys, I'm going to step out. It is the Toyota Coaches Corner. Bowling Green, they play fast. Take us through the offense, guys.
I mean, from watching everything I've watched last year, the thing that I like about this is they attack. They put the corners in bad positions. They put the read ends in bad positions. They put the safeties in bad positions. Everybody's in a bad position because of the way they attack. Yes, you still have to execute, but like right there, for instance, Danny, and you can speak to it better, they put this corner and safety in a very bad position with those 2 verticals, especially one bending.
This is miscommunication to me in coverage where the corner thinks he's got safety over the help, and he kind of either splits it and he pedals out and plays the cover 2. So to the top of the screen, the corner should sync with 1 vertical if 2 stays vertical to the same side. So what I see is you get some variations in formations, but you'll see later on in the film they do a really good job of staying in on the ride, and they get all the linebackers to suck up and play. You have to defend run. In today's college world, linemen are allowed 3 yards downfield on a pass. So you're going to see an end zone copy here where the quarterback does a great job of riding. They're going to run a power concept where they're kicking, inserting. He rides it, and it's really straight man across the top, and it's like picking and catching.
And the thing that we talked about it earlier is on that last play, which disappeared. They talk about how they read that corner and safety. Those guys dove in on that run hard because of that. Like you just mentioned, the 3 yards down the field.
That's all
they dove in hard. Now they have one-on-one.
Yeah.
Nobody inside to help them. That's an easy completion.
Yep.
And you think about a guy like Dungy when he has Ishmael, Irv, Grizzly, and they get those one-on-one situations.
I love the skilled position guys at Syracuse this year. I really do.
And we talked about the miscommunication here, and you hear the emphasis about Coach Babers talk about fast, speed, no huddling. How much of that do you think plays an effect to the defense miscommunicating?
It's going to be huge on the defensive coordinator's part. We ran against Northwestern, Doug Marone's first year, where they came out in a really up-tempo offense. We referred to it as a NASCAR concept. So, where it puts you in a predicament is if you're subbing personnel groupings, and so you have a base defense and an Okie defense, getting guys on and off the field is difficult. And then the other thing is you can't watch the play. You got to get to the next call once you understand what the down and distance is. So it really makes the defensive coordinators be on top of their game plan.
Communication-wise, if you're doing secondary linebacker, maybe you want to get out of a cover 2 because you want to run a base cover 2, but all of a sudden you see the stretch in your vertical. how much emphasis in practice and in film study are you going to do to make sure, hey, when they line up in these formations, you got to check this coverage right now because we could be in trouble. All of a sudden they have trips on one side and they're stuck in cover 2, and they run those 3 verts, especially with that bender that brings that safety away.
I'm lucky enough I still get to coach football at a high school level, and we see a lot of the spread offense.
Right.
So
that's huge.
In addition to running 70, 80, 90 plays a game now, you're looking at a lot of the jet sweep motion. And I think, by the way, I think Coach Babers may be the fittest coach that we've had here in years. He is jacked up.
Yeah, he's strong.
I mean, that's if you're asking why I put weight on, it's make sure he doesn't run me over when I see him. But being able to get the kids communicating with all the adjustments and checks. I mean, there's a lot of terminology. There's a lot of language going on the field. And the up tempo, the quicker they're running plays every 20 to 24 seconds, you'll see a lot of miscommunications. You'll see some people going offside. So,
again, everyone thinks this is a big-time passing offense, which it is. I mean, you don't throw for 46 touchdowns if you're not throwing the football around.
Sure.
But what we've seen on some of these plays is the ability for running backs to have clear lanes, clean lines to get through. I know as a running back, if you can get me through 3-4 yards without being touched, that's impressive. And do you think coming, again, so if you're on defense and you got a team that's running this fast, stretching you vertically as much as they are, does that make your linebackers hesitant to come upfield right away? How are you coaching them in terms of playing a read?
Let me swing it this way. If I was coaching against this team, I'm going to take your big guys off the field. We ran into this against Geno Smith years ago, where Doc Holliday basically told one of the guys I was working with, get your big guys off the field, move the ends down into tackles, put outside backers and nickels off the edge. The game happens so fast, those big guys, they can't play at that fast pace. They're going to be huffing and puffing, and even rotating them in every couple plays isn't going to be enough. So what you're doing is you're putting a smaller body in the interior part of the defensive line. So that's the adjustment that I see. Playing linebacker, you're going to go through your pass keys right there and drop it into coverage. Where this Bowling Green team did a really nice job was really riding the run-pass option.
Very well.
And then just basically sucking all those guys up and making a man coverage on top.
One of the things I like, Matt touched about in the last segment is how Coach Babers is having Dungy get rid of the ball quickly. And this quarterback, Matt Johnson, these films, he's not holding on to the ball very long. Some receivers may take shots, but what's going to happen is they start sucking up like this. They're starting to play the short stuff, and that's when they start running past them.
It not only does it get the ball out of Dungy's hands, and I'm sure he's already been told, if you run the ball, you're getting fired. I mean, in high school football, I fire guys once a play, and then I bring them back in. I said, better effort or don't do that.
Right.
So I know that.
Don't do that.
If for us to, I really believe for us to win some football games this year and have a winning season, Eric Dungy's got to play all 12 games. Keep him healthy, get the ball out of his hands. The next part that it does defensively is if you're getting the balls out in ball out at quick game and 2 steps and smoke routes, you're taking the blitz out of the game.
Absolutely.
So why commit 6 or 7 to a blitz and all of a sudden you're playing man coverage on the outside? So
which gives the offensive line, chances to maybe patch up spots where they're not as strong. Because they get rid of the ball quick, it covers up some of the weaknesses.
It protects your quarterback, and it helps a young offensive line.
And a neutralize is a great defensive line, like we'll see against Clemson and Florida State.
No, I guess I want to report. I hear Dino Babers does bench more than 300 pounds. That's a fact, by the way.
I believe it.
Now, one thing I want to ask, Syracuse fans remember that 2012 offense. We have video of that to show you against a great rally against South Florida. Every offense is different, but how similar when Syracuse played fast that year is it to the way the Orange played 4 years ago?
I think it's a different speed. You got to remember, when they're also rallying here, they were down.
Sure.
So you're changing offense a little bit based on the scoreboard. What you're doing, Coach Babers, the scoreboard doesn't matter. He's running that speed all the time. And I think that's where the little bit difference is. But again, in this situation, when you're down and you
this
have
was like 15 seconds left.
Right,
here,
you're moving fast because it's 2-minute drill. But they still did run pretty quick. I mean, they're out of the huddle pretty fast. But this was
they did huddle though.
Right, this is a little different experience.
No question about it, guys. Thank you so much for the breakdown. Don't go anywhere. So much more coming up on the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff. He is the new leader of SU Athletics. I go one-on-one with John Wildhack. When we come back, you're watching the Orange Zone right here on NBC3.
Welcome back to the Orange Zone, supported by Northside Collision.
Welcome back. It was a year of transition for Syracuse. We've mentioned at length by now Dino Babers, his first year at the helm. But the man who hired Babers left as well, creating a potentially uncomfortable situation for Dino until Mark Coyle's replacement was hired. Meet John Wildhack. The new athletic director worked at ESPN since he graduated from SU in 1980. He rose through the ranks from production assistant all the way to an executive with the worldwide leader. He's bled orange his entire time. The experience at ESPN, crucial in an age when college athletics commands the almighty TV dollar. I go one-on-one with John right about now.
Welcoming Syracuse University's Director of Athletics, John Wildhack.
John Wildhack is home. With an eye on the orange his entire career at ESPN, leading Syracuse athletics is a dream come true.
One of the things I always told people is you can't teach passion. You either have it or you don't. And I have obviously a great passion for the university, the community, the area. So that makes it fun to go to work every day.
3 weeks on the job. It's a lot of getting to know the department. If there's a such thing as a player's coach, Wildhack would be a player's athletic director.
We want to give them the support where they can achieve their maximum potential, and academically and athletically. That's really why we're here. We're here for the student athletes and to develop them, as people, develop them academically, develop them athletically, so that when they leave here, wherever they go, they're well prepared.
There was the potentially uncomfortable situation of an arranged marriage, so to speak. Dino Babers, the head football coach, hired by Mark Coyle, paired with a new boss before his team ever takes a snap. Babers and Wildhack, though, absolutely making the most of it.
Well, I really believe everything happens for a reason. I think that, Mark Coyle hired me. He hired me for a reason, and I was supposed to be here. Now, him leaving, for me, a little uncomfortable, but the bottom line is that happened for a reason. So for me to get an opportunity now to have a new athletic director in John Wildhack, and to have an opportunity to be on the search committee, Chancellor Severud, I think that was a big boost of confidence, so to speak.
I think he and I, we've gotten off to a great start. We get along. We're direct. We're candid with each other. We've had fun in our conversations. So I think we developed a real sense of trust. I have an admiration for him not only as a coach but as a person. And everything that he's accomplished, everything that he stands for. So I'm privileged and proud.
In an age where sports, college athletics specifically, is one of the last DVR-proof things, right? I can watch a show I like the next day, but sports, if your team lost, you don't care about it the next day. How important is your expertise from working at ESPN and the Syracuse athletics brand as a whole?
Well, I think sports is all about immediacy, right? It's all about now, and you're right, Nico. You have to watch it live. You have to consume it live. So I think it increases in value exponentially. It's important to the networks. It's important to advertisers. Important to distributors. So I think is an overarching the sports industry, and in college sports is in a very strong position in terms of a media landscape. In terms of the ACC network, I think it's a great opportunity for Syracuse. It's a great opportunity to showcase our Olympic sports that will be to a national audience. And along the way, if I can help the ACC at all in that, I'm happy to do so.
The new network needs inventory. In other words, it needs quality games to put on the air. The ACC will have to increase its conference games from 8 to 9 or stay at 8 conference games but add 2 required power conference games every year. It's a debate split down the middle in the conference. The scales could be tipped by one new AD like Wildhack. I know the inventory on the football side has to increase with the network. Is there a side of that argument, whether it's 9 conference games or the 8 conference plus 2 Power 5 that you stand on?
Well, there's been outstanding dialogue amongst the athletic directors in the conference on this, and we continue to do our due diligence and really examine and peel back the onion on both options. At the appropriate time, we'll make a decision, and then we'll move forward as one.
When it comes down to it, Wildhack is like many of us, a fan of the program. He won't bolt an ear, genuinely invested in the well-being of the program. He was there for some of the brightest moments in the past.
And the two things is the national championship, victory over Kansas. And I think the other is the Syracuse-West Virginia game when we came back and capped the undefeated season in 1987.
He'll be there for some of the brightest moments still to come. And we welcome back Danny Conley. And I'll start with you, Damian. You have a Syracuse grad running Syracuse athletics. As another Syracuse grad, that's got to feel pretty good, right?
It does, because he understands the culture, especially not to age him, but the year in which he graduated. So he's seen all of the different successes of all the athletic programs. So he understands those deep traditions. Not just in basketball. I feel like so many people that grow up nowadays think, oh, it's just basketball, but they forget about the football tradition that this school has. Many people that are experienced in broadcasting, they'll never forget about what Syracuse done for all the people they've put in the NFL, the things they've done, especially in Northeast football. So I think having him there, coming from that tradition, is huge. Not to mention what he has done at ESPN, that can only be favorable for us.
And Danny, the one thing that really stuck out to me in our interview is he talked about, it's almost like an arranged marriage where Coach Babers was hired by Mark Coyle, and then all of a sudden Mark Coyle bolts after 10 months on the job. So these guys have really been working at bonding the last couple months. How important is that AD head football coach relationship?
I think it's critical, and I'll be interested to see how this develops over the next couple months. I'm excited to have Mr. Wallenhack, a part of the Syracuse football program. My wife would drop me off, and I'd coach a summer football camp up here for years at Syracuse, and she literally would say to me, she's like, you light up when you come back on campus. And I've heard very much the same type of comments about Mr. Wildhack coming back. So I'm excited about Coach Babers, this fast-paced offense and the ability to score points and run a lot of plays. And then having a Syracuse guy, a Syracuse Orangeman, former Orangeman, a Syracuse Orange guy leading the charge, it's leading to an exciting season.
You spoke about it. When you come up back to Syracuse, you still get those little butterflies. I mean, every time I walk into the Dome, do you not feel that same kind of?
I see it. He's
that game.
I sweat. It's hot. And as Nico
it is hot
still.
I still can't breathe sometimes. But having that tie to it, it's so nostalgic every time you walk in that I can't imagine the feeling of being able to lead your alma mater. That means so much to you. It's got to be an unbelievable feeling. And I think with that, when you have that much passion in something, it's not work that he's doing. He's doing something he loves because he loves where he's at.
And one thing John says, he says to Coach Babers, I'm not going to in any way, shape, or form tell you what you should do schematically, schemes, anything like that, but you are accountable for all aspects of the program. It sounds like they're off to a great start in that relationship. Coming up, Danny's probably a little upset right now. We're talking offense. Danny, it's time to talk about the defense. Damien and Danny take a look at the Syracuse Stoppers when we come back. You're watching the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff right here on NBC3. Welcome back to the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff 2016. Damien, Dan, the Tampa 2 defensive scheme. It's defensive coordinator Brian Ward putting it in place. For fans at home who may not know exactly what it is, Coach Faber saying at practice recently that there's some similarities to what's been done in the past, but when you hear a new scheme name, it's something that kind of jumps out at you a little bit.
It is. First time I ever think about Tampa 2, I have to think about my favorite team, the Chicago Bears. Lovie Smith used to love running the Tampa 2. Did it down at the Bucs, and the ability, if you have the right linebacker, which I do think we have with Zaire Franklin, to be able to run that Tampa 2. It's definitely going to be an adjustment compared to what they've ran the last few years, especially that kind of attacking, blitzing defense that they used to run. Danny, that you're very knowledgeable of. It's definitely a little bit of a switch.
I think when you lead with we're going to be a Tampa 2, in my mind you start saying we're going to be a little bit more of a zone team. And then you get into, well, how do you rush the quarterback with 4 down? And where Scott Schaefer got after quarterbacks with multiple pressures and bringing 5 and playing zone coverage behind it, it sounds like they're going to be playing more zone concept and utilizing some of the attacking protection. So Tampa 2 is a 2 deep, 5 underneath coverage where the middle linebacker can run the middle seam if 2 or 3 runs vertical. So it can kind of morph into a 3 deep, 4 underneath coverage. But if it's hanging on Tampa and it's a cover 2 concept, really where it fits in with a lot of the perimeter run game. And I have teams that run in bubble and jet sweeps and all that stuff where your corners or your contained guys in the Pop Warner world would put our best guys at the ends, the 6'2" ends, and they'd contain everything. While in college football, the coverages, the contain is built around the coverages. So in cover 2, it's typically your corners, and cover 4, it's your safeties, and cover 3, it's your curl flat defenders. So I think to see a little bit more zone concept.
Is it a concern when you look at the defensive line? It's so there's true freshmen starting, which is a compliment to them. But it's a lot of new starters all over the place. And when you lose guys like Ron Thompson, it's certainly going to hurt you a little bit.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern because both sides of the ball, your line is the most important piece. If your line isn't there offensively, it can make things a little difficult. You can cover it a little bit with quick throws, stuff like that, but you need to have a good offensive line at the end of the day to protect your quarterback and get the run game going. Defensive line, you need that line to be able to hold down a little bit of forward, because otherwise sometimes if they're not getting the pressure they need and it's putting stress on those safeties and those corners and that Tampa 2, you give a quarterback enough time in the zone, he's going to find somebody to get into a space. So you would like to see some production out of the defensive line. But if a true freshman starting, maybe it's because he has the ability to do so.
And Danny, I got to talk to you about the linebackers, right? Zaire Franklin, second-year captain, third-year guy. He's the kind of linebacker, it seems like anyway that a coach loves to have.
He's a head knocker. I mean, and he's that guy that's athletic enough to be able to go out and play in space. I know he's playing middle linebacker, but I think the linebacker position is probably the most solid position on the field this year.
Yep.
Having 4 new starters in the front. I don't know. We always coach true freshmen to play linebacker, so there's something special about having a young, raw kid that you can develop, like a Doug Hogue. Never played linebacker in college, made him a linebacker, had a chance to go to the NFL. So getting those guys in place and not having to fix different techniques or bad habits. I don't know. Playing 11 guys on defense that don't have a lot of experience, you can get away with.
By the way, I just want to say I love Dino Baber's music selection in practice. We've got some Santana. You can kind of hear the ambient sound there. I'm a fan. I don't know how you guys would have practiced, but I'm a fan of it. Damien, the secondary. It's a lot of returning guys from last year, and they did struggle at times last year. What do you expect out of that?
Well, I'd like to see Corey Winfield step up this year and become that man to be able to, take down half the field. It's going to be a little bit different now with him playing cover 2. There was at times last year where, I think about the LSU game, him and Wingham getting beat sometimes when we talked about going in that week that if the corners had just a good game, not a great game, just a good game, we'd have a chance to slow down Fournette, which we did for the most part until once they started going over the top of us. Now all of a sudden you have to bring those safeties back and then things get loose. So I would like to see him to step up, but again, being in cover 2 kind of protects him a little bit because he doesn't have to carry one-on-one with somebody.
Sure.
He can fall back, and now if he has a little bit of pressure, now he'll drop deeper if he has to, but it can almost protect and make corners look better. You always hear there's one corner in the NFL, I can never remember his name, who was an unbelievable cover 2 corner, and they always looked at one of the best corners ever, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he played cover 2, and everyone's like, well, he never had to man up against anybody.
Well, there you go. And guys, we know that defense will be tested in the ACC. You mentioned Florida State, Clemson. For a look around the conference, we welcome back Matt Hosworth with your ACC Roundup. Matt, we're so glad you're with the team this year.
Thanks a lot, Nico. Hey, the Atlantic Coast Conference will be as tough as any league in the nation this season. Clemson and Florida State are not only the top 2 teams in the nation, but both just so happen to play in the very same division as the Syracuse Orange. Lucky them. We'll start first and foremost with the Clemson Tigers. Clemson was given the nod to finish number 1 in the ACC this year. The Tigers return arguably the best player in college football, that being Deshaun Watson. The junior quarterback led the Tigers all the way to the national championship game 1 year ago, giving Alabama all it could handle and then some. Clemson is once again loaded with talent, ranked number 2 overall in the AP Top 25 preseason poll. SU will visit Death Valley on Saturday, November 5th. Watson, an early season frontrunner for the Heisman Trophy, recently spoke about the upcoming season.
It's going to feel good just to be able to go out there and cut it loose in front of the world and show what Clemson football is about. And, it's just going to be a lot of emotions going on, but at the same time, it's going to be fun to get back out there on that field and play college football. It's something out of my control. If I have the opportunity to leave, then I'll leave. But if not, right now my main focus is, enjoying my college career.
Hey, right behind Clemson is the Florida State Seminoles. Do not sleep on the Noles. Head coach Jimbo Fisher returns quite the unit this season. Florida State's ranked 4th in the AP Top 25 preseason poll. You will not be able to miss FSU's junior tailback. Dalvin Cook will be the star of the Noles offense this year. Redshirt freshman DeAndre Francois was just named the starting quarterback this week. FSU will travel up here to the Carrier Dome on Saturday, November 19th. Certainly mark your calendars for that one. Hey, let's jump now to the Louisville Cardinals. They will visit the Carrier Dome next Friday night. Louisville checks in at number 19 in the AP Top 25 preseason poll. Lamar Jackson returns as a sophomore to lead the Cardinals offense. Some are even saying Jackson is the most anticipated Louisville QB since Teddy Bridgewater, who's now with the Minnesota Vikings. The Cardinals have high hopes for him. They also added former West Virginia wide receivers coach Lonnie Galloway as their new co-offensive coordinator. Again, Louisville visits Syracuse next Friday night. And finally, let's take a closer look at the Pitt Panthers this season. We can all remember that heartbreaking finish to last year's meeting from inside the Carrier Dome. The field goal at the end won it for the Panthers. You see the celebration there. This season, Syracuse will venture down to Heinz Field during the final week of the regular season. Head coach Pat Narduzzi also welcomes back tailback James Conner, who beat cancer and returns to the football field this season.
Well, we're very excited to get this week started and get game one under our belt. We got a very accomplished football team in Villanova coming into Heinz Field this week. Not only very accomplished football team, but well-decorated head football coach in Andy Talley. I think it's the same James that I saw a year ago. Maybe a little bit happier. I think he's thankful, grateful for really being here, and you probably see a little bit more of a smile on his face than you had. And I think he's really enjoying the moment. I don't know if he was more stressed out a year ago. You just see him kind of a more relaxed James Conner. And maybe it's just because it's a year later, or maybe it's because he's grateful for where he is and having the opportunity.
And finally, here's a look at the ACC Atlantic Division preseason poll. Syracuse picked to finish 6th. The usual suspects at the top: Clemson number 1, Florida State number 2, Louisville number 3. Guys, one thing's for sure, the ACC going to be a tough league this season. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Matt. And remember, you can watch the ACC Game of the Week on NBC3 or CW6 just about every week. Hey, Game 1, we haven't talked about them yet. The Colgate Raiders, a Central New York rival. We'll dive into this matchup when we come back. You're watching the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff right here on NBC3. Welcome back to the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff 2016. Game 1, 48 hours away. Colgate, an FCS team. In theory, you should always beat, but guys, start with you, Damien. The Raiders are tough.
Yeah, they're sneaky good. Not even sneaky. They're a good team, and if we're not totally ready, they can easily come into this dome and give us more of a game than we want. Great running back. Quarterback has over 2,500 yards passing and over 1,000 yards rushing last year. Everything's predicated off him, really. So try to hopefully make him put the ball in the air and slow him down.
And we see these numbers here, 9-5 last year. They made it to the NCAA quarterfinals. You mentioned the quarterback, Melville. Colgate leads the all-time series 31-30, but they haven't won one since 1950. Let's hear what Dino Babers had to say about how scary, how spooky of a matchup this really could be for the Orange.
It's extremely difficult. It's eerie how much they remind me of my team that went out to San Diego State and beat a very good San Diego State team in their own stadium, and everybody thought that the roof had fell in on San Diego State, and then that same year they win their conference and they beat Boise State. And their loss is sitting there to an FCS school. So it's eerie and it's spooky. So that's, no matter, you keep telling young men, hey, these guys are good, these guys are good, these guys are good. Well, they're going to find out how good they are, and hopefully we don't sleep too long and we realize that we need to bring our A game or we're going to be in trouble.
Coach Conley, when Dino says, hopefully we don't sleep too long, these guys are going to know how good they are, what does he mean by that?
It means hope in one hand, do something in the other, and see which one fills up first. So I try to keep it PG for TV.
Please.
But, I think Colgate's going to be well coached with Danny Hunt and his staff. The kids are going to be fired up. It's local. All the parents are going to come to this. I think this game can quickly become a 48-14 ball game with Syracuse on top.
Hopefully that's what happens as far as Syracuse fans, but we know it'll be a good one Friday night at 7. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to wrap up our season premiere of the Orange Zone. Danny, we'll see you next week, though.
You got it.
Welcome back to the Orange Zone, supported by Northside Collision.
Welcome back. We're here to wrap things up on the Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff. Dino Babers threw out the first pitch at the Syracuse Chiefs game on Saturday night. Matt was there, and Coach and John Wildhack both did it. Now, Coach did ground it a little bit. John Wildhack saying it's because he's been so focused on the season, and that's just it. We know Coach is much better when he's got that headset on. This is really exciting to see him in this first game, Damien.
I can't wait. Danny alluded to this game can jump out really quickly. We can easily take control of this game if we come in with the right mindset, and I'm really excited to see what this offense is going to look like live. I really am. I think it may take a series or two, but I can see a lot of big plays happening in this dome starting to get lit up real quick.
This year, we always seem to talk about how many wins. Is success this year a quantitative thing in how many wins, or is it a quality thing in how it picks up in Babers' system?
It's always both. I mean, fans and, the actual school is going to worry about revenue, which comes from winning games and making sure people are in the seats. So, yes, you want to win games, but, as Coach Babers said, sometimes the results don't happen until the mid of the second year. what I've told people is you may not see the wins and losses, but you'll see the product start to change, and you'll see the betterment of the team. Sometimes wins and losses don't show up right away, but you can tell the team's getting better and better. So I think it's a combination of both. At the end of the day, though, this is a wins and loss record, but I think they're going to have more wins than losses.
And you feel good about the first one, right?
I do.
Colgate's tough, but you feel good about it.
They're tough. It's a local Central New York team. It'd be great for them to come up to the Dome. It's almost not a home game, but it's close to them. But I feel really good about it.
And how crucial is September here?
It's huge. We have 4 games that we can win this month, and 4-0 going into October is huge. We have a revenge game against USF, a game that we blew last year that we had no business losing, and then we have a chance to go to UConn, first road game, which was like USF last year where we lost that one. So if we can take care of business 4-0 at the end of September, it'd be great.
Damian Rhodes, thank you so much for the time as always. He'll be back next week. So will Danny Conley and Matt Hosworth. I'm Nico Tamuri, and we thank you so much for watching our Orange Zone Countdown to Kickoff 2016. One note, we're on Wednesday night tonight. Every week the rest of the season, it'll be Thursday night at 7, right here on NBC3. Good night.